Unbelievable twist. She escaped a toxic love only to discover his shocking identity. A mafia boss. The walls of her childhood home wrapped around her like a soft blanket, but Hannah couldn't shake the feeling of dread gnawing at her stomach. She had escaped Marcus, the charming man who had turned out to be a storm of turmoil hidden beneath a mask of charisma. Now she faced an identity crisis of her own. What did it mean to be the woman who loved a feared mafia boss? The comforting aromas of her parents' dinner wafted into her mind, yet all she could think about was his smile, the way he'd promised her the world. Dinner was a gathering of laughter and warmth, but Hannah felt like an outsider in her own life. Her parents were kind, their intentions noble, but how could she share the haunting truth, that the threads of her life were starkly tangled in a danger that could consume them all? "How was your day, honey?" her mother asked cheerfully, slicing the roast. The question felt weighty, a suffocating cloud overshadowing the room. She hesitated, biting her lip. "I've been trying to find my footing." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth. Behind her fragile smile lay the fierce battle of reconciling love with betrayal. Confronting her feelings for Marcus, the man who once made her feel cherished only to expose her vulnerabilities, left her breathless. Could love exist in a world of violence? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Marcus's playful laughter echoed in her mind, reminding her of stolen moments that felt sacred. Yet, with each recall, a new layer of horror unfurled. The secrets, the danger lurking in the shadows, the whispers of intrigue that tied him to something sinister. How could she have misread him so completely? Feeling unfocused, she rose from the table, rushing to the kitchen to escape her parents' gaze. Her heart raced as she retrieved her phone. The deep dive into the dark web had revealed Marcus's lineage. He was more than a man. He was a son of a mobster. She trembled in disbelief, grappling with the monstrous reality. The betrayal hurt like fire spreading through her veins. Love or betrayal? It felt like a cruel reality show, and she was unwillingly the star. That confusion began to teeter into raw anguish. Marcus wasn't just a man she had cared for. He was an embodiment of everything Hannah stood against as a social worker. And yet, despite the gradual unfolding of chaos, she still felt a flicker of longing for that affection. Each detail unearthed dragged her further into a harrowing moral maze. Pursuing justice meant possibly losing the parts of herself that clung to the good moments. As she stood in the kitchen debating with herself, the doorbell rang, shattering her thoughts. She froze. Could it be him? Her heart pounded with a chaotic rhythm, each moment amplifying her paralysis. What if he wanted to explain? To plead? Would she find the strength to confront him? Or would she succumb to those memories that still danced like whispers around her heart? As she took a breath, the stakes crystallized. This meeting would change everything. With resolve, she opened the door, knowing that one step forward could drown her in a deluge of fury and love, leaving her trapped in a fate she hadn't chosen. Hannah opened the door and found Marcus standing there, his shadow stretching long across the porch, bathed in the soft light of the evening. Her breath caught in her throat, and a wave of conflicting emotions surged through her. The familiarity of his presence felt both like a warm embrace and a looming threat. Charm had never looked so menacing. "Can we talk?" His voice held a mixture of hesitation and urgency, so unlike the bold confidence she was accustomed to. It was this uncertainty that drew her in, against all her better instincts. Before she could respond, he stepped forward, crossing the threshold into her home. The smell of roasted chicken and herbs lingered in the air, profoundly juxtaposed with the tension radiating from him. At that moment, Hannah realized she was standing at a crossroads where comfort clashed with the dire implications of his reality. "Please," he continued, his eyes pleading for understanding. I know what you found out. I didn't want you to see that side of me. A part of her wanted to believe him, the part that recalled how he made her laugh and swept her off her feet while sharing dreams of a different life. Yet the other half recoiled, reminded of a future shadowed by his family's legacy. Then why didn't you tell me? She demanded, her voice steady yet shaking with suppressed emotion. Why hide something so important? Marcus's gaze dropped to the floor. I thought, if I kept you away from that world. Kept me away? Or kept it safe for yourself? She bit back the anger rising within her. You're not just in danger, you're the danger. Listen, Hannah. He stepped closer, placing his hand gently on her arm, and she felt an involuntary shiver course through her. I wanted to protect you from everything, from my family's mess, but I can't do that now, can I? Protect me? She yanked her arm free, her heart racing as clarity began piercing through her confusion. You think I'm the one in danger? You're the one who led me into this twisted web, and now I have to figure out how to untangle it myself. Throughout the haze of anger, she sensed a flicker of hope, the urgency to reclaim her agency. This was more than an emotional confrontation. It was a fierce wrestle for her identity and principles. Being a social worker meant defending the vulnerable, including herself. What are you going to do? Marcus asked, his tone shifting as if realizing their roles had reversed. This was not just about him anymore. She was taking charge. I'm going to do what I've always done, stand for what's right. But right now I need space. Space to think, to decide what I want. The resolve in her voice was both a revelation and a release. Marcus took a step back, the realization of losing her dawning in his expression. I can't just let you walk away, I care about you, Hannah. His admission struck a chord deeper than mere affection. It triggered the instinct she had to protect those she loved. But this time, she needed to protect herself from him, from the world he had woven with deceit. Caring isn't enough when it's built on lies, she said, gazing defiantly into his eyes, as he turned to leave, uncertainty flickering in his demeanor. A new determination took root in her chest. It was time for her to reclaim her narrative, to shift it from one dictated by Marcus's choices to one forged by her own. Alone in her kitchen, she leaned against the counter, shaken but emboldened. The emotional turmoil was a crucible, and though the flames of conflict raged, they were also forging her into something new. What did it mean to be a woman connected to such chaos? Who was she without the veil of his influence? Suddenly, buzz from her phone broke the silence. A message from an unknown number lit the screen. I know where you are. We need to talk. Her pulse quickened again, more danger lurking just beneath the surface, and suddenly, clarity intertwined with dread. She had not one but two battles to face, the danger of Marcus and the unknown threat creeping closer. Just when she thought she had the situation figured out, a new layer of turmoil emerged, pulling her back into the storm. Could she navigate both complexities while reclaiming her identity, or was the unraveling just beginning? Hannah stood still, the glow of the phone illuminating her face while the chill of fear gnawed at her insides. The message felt like an echo of her worst nightmares, a sinister intrusion that felt all too real. She placed the phone back on the counter, resisting the impulse to respond. This was not just about Marcus anymore. A shadow now loomed over her, one she had yet to understand. Steeling herself, she dragged her mind back to her work, the metaphorical armor she had always worn as a social worker. That identity, the one devoted to helping others navigate their traumas, had served as her guiding light, yet now felt more like a flickering candle in a tempest. Resolutely, she moved to her laptop. She began typing, reaching for the wisdom she had amassed over years of confronting difficult realities in the lives of others. As she researched domestic threats, she gained new insights into the patterns of manipulation she had seen in her clients, patterns that suddenly resonated with Marcus's behaviors. As she delved deeper, every chilling statistic about coercion and control lightened the burden of isolation that had begun to settle on her. It became clear she wasn't alone. The fear that had paralyzed her moments ago transformed into a palpable determination, resonating with her professional identity. This was not the first time she had faced a daunting challenge. Navigating the chaos of her emotions resembled the struggles of those she fought for daily. She could and would stand firm. The phone buzzed again, cutting through her thoughts. Another message from the unknown number. "You can't hide. Meet me tonight at the old factory on 5th. No one will hear you scream." Her heart raced. Panic threatened to overtake her, but she paused, closing her eyes for a moment. She needed a plan. Running into unknown territory was not an option. She recalled the skills of assessment she had honed over the years. In crisis situations, she often relied on a combination of intuition and information. Now it was her turn to use that knowledge for herself. She made a decision. If she were to go, it would not be without preparation. She gathered her thoughts and listed the resources available to her. She would confide in her senior colleague Susan, who had faced threats in her own life due to complex social cases. That could be her safety network. Susan might help or at least offer sound advice. As Hannah picked up her phone to dial, the implications of her burgeoning plan sank in. She could no longer be passive, acquiescing to the influences that had clouded her decisions. It was time to assert control. She was no longer a victim in this narrative, but an active participant in crafting her future. Her conversation with Susan was brief, laced with urgency as she disclosed just enough to highlight the gravity of her situation. "I understand, Hannah. We need to devise a way to keep you safe." Hannah felt a flicker of warmth. Her resolve solidified as she absorbed Susan's support. They laid out practical strategies, keeping the phone charged, documenting communications, and arranging a check-in system. Each step felt pivotal, a stitch in the fabric of her burgeoning resilience. Preparations underway, Hannah couldn't shake the initial thrill of her mettle, knowing she was pushing against the tide of anxiety. Yet there was another wave rising, mingling with her resolve. The uncertainty of what awaited her at that meeting. What did this unknown figure want? What more did they know? She ventured a glance out her window, the dawning twilight casting an eerie glow across the landscape. With the remnants of what had once felt like stability creeping backward, she faced a daunting question. Could she confront the storm she had unwittingly stepped into and still emerge whole? The factory loomed ahead in her mind, an almost mythical labyrinth echoing through her thoughts. What revelation or confrontation awaited her there? The finality of her decision burned brightly within her. She would meet this new threat unleashed like a wild card, fully aware this could change everything again. With her heart pounding and a plan of action forming in her mind, she took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. Whatever this new chapter held, she now understood what was at stake, her very identity. But as she prepared for the confrontation, another text arrived, sending a shiver down her spine. "Don't trust anyone, not even her." And with that, the groundwork for her next move shifted beneath her, thrusting her deeper into conflict with forces she could never have anticipated. Could she navigate the treachery ahead without losing herself to the chaos? Hannah's breath caught as the last message flickered on her screen, its finality gnawing at the edges of her resolve. The urgency pressed in, punctuated by the ticking clock that reminded her time was slipping away. Doubt crept into her mind, but she quickly pushed it aside, her mind racing toward the factory. Gathering her courage, she slipped on a jacket, steeling herself. Striding through her apartment, she considered a million possibilities swirling in her mind. Her training as a social worker kicked in. She had always believed in the power of control through knowledge and strategy. Yet, this was her life on the line. She studied her internal map of the factory, recalling its layout from a previous assignment. Memories of steel beams and darkened corners flooded her consciousness. It would be a maze, and she needed to navigate it with intention. Replaying her conversation with Susan, she mentally reviewed their safety strategies. Although Susan had provided invaluable advice, a nagging suspicion seeped into her thoughts. What if her colleague was entangled in this twisted web? The warning echoed in her mind. Don't trust anyone, tainting her perspective. How could she reconcile the trust she felt towards Susan with the potential reality that betrayal could come from even the ones closest to her? As she neared the factory, a wash of adrenaline surged through her. The cold air stung her skin and the shadows stretched ominously in the fading light. Inches from her destination she paused, holding her breath. Could she assert control over the situation? What strategies had she mastered that would apply here, in this life-or-death confrontation? Fear clamored for her attention, but each step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of herself she thought she might have lost. Arriving at the factory, a rusted metal sign flaked under decades of neglect. The scent of iron and ages-old abandonment filled her nostrils. Gritting her teeth, Hannah pushed open the door, the creaking hinges betraying her entrance. The vast interior loomed around her, full of murky shadows and echoes of forgotten memories. This would be her battleground. Instinctively, her heart raced, tuning her senses to the environment. From her years of training, she had learned the importance of reading a room, of understanding the dynamics present within a space. Each creak in the floor, every distant drip of water was a symphony signaling potential threats. She moved carefully, her resolve strong with each strategic step she took. In a far corner, she spotted movement. A figure stood silhouetted against the sparse light, maintaining a deliberate stillness that felt suffocating. Drawing on her training, Hannah paused, breathing through the rising fear. This individual could possess answers, but it was crucial to remain vigilant. The image of Marcus flashed in her mind. The chaos wrapped around him a veil that now tangled her emotions. Hannah took a deep breath, fisting her hands to steady the disquiet. This could be a turning point, an opportunity to understand the truth. "Who are you?" she called out, her voice steady despite the tremor of uncertainty lurking beneath. The figure shifted. The tension hung palpably in the air, thick like fog. As they stepped into the half-light, recognition coursed through her. A whirlwind of emotion surged as familiarity washed over her. But the implications of who they were exploded like fireworks in her mind. As fragments of past encounters replayed behind her eyes, she felt her heart race with the weight of undeniable realization. The light glinted off the person's smile, and Hannah suddenly understood. This revelation would shatter everything she believed about her life and choices. What had she stumbled into? Forcing herself to remain grounded, Hannah squared her shoulders, ready to confront not just the individual before her, but the unpredictable chaos of her emotions and memories. And as the figure began to speak, the air crackled with tension, solidifying the danger that encircled her. "You still don't know everything, Hannah," they taunted, their voice curling around her doubts like smoke. Her thoughts raced, wrestling with the twisting narrative that emerged before her in a maze of danger and hidden truths. Now, she faced a new and terrifying question. With each revelation that crumbled her understanding, would her foundation of self remain strong? Or would she fall victim to the very shadows she sought to illuminate? Hannah stared at the figure before her, adjusting to the jarring familiarity while her thoughts spiraled into chaos. The shadows stretched deeper within the factory, amplifying the weight of their shared past. Each heartbeat thudded against her ribcage, tethering her to reality even as everything felt surreal. Memories cascaded like a flood. Laughter, shared secrets, a bond she once cherished. "Ted?" Her voice broke, a blend of disbelief and horror. "Surprised to see me?" His smirk was unsettling, a perverse twist she didn't recognize. The man she remembered had vanished in the man who stood before her, cloaked in deceit and danger. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, flicking between anger and confusion. The years faded into a fog of nostalgia, colliding with the pressing urgency of the moment. Ted had always been charming, a smooth talker who could wrap anyone around his finger. But this was a different game entirely. "You were always too smart for your own good, Hannah. You dug too deep into things that didn't concern you." The edge in his voice unnerved her, a dark warning laced between the words. "What do you mean? I was just trying to help people, the same way I always did." The protestation felt hollow as she replayed the moments leading to this confrontation. What line had she crossed that now placed her face to face with the consequences? Ted stepped closer, shadows highlighting his features in a way that made her stomach twist. "Life isn't about helping people. It's about power and control. You should have stayed in your little bubble. Now look where you are. A bitter laugh escaped her. Each sentence pulled her deeper into the mix of emotions. Betrayal surfaced, mingling with disappointment. You're not the Ted I knew. You've changed. This isn't you. His gaze hardened, the warmth melting away like the last sun rays on a winter's evening. Oh, this is me. Maybe you just didn't want to see the truth. You ran away from reality, Hannah, and now your curiosity has led you right into the heart of darkness. Realization dawned, chilling her resolve as she recalled pieces she had overlooked. A name, an association, whispers that had always lingered, just out of reach. The truth of his world had been lurking behind friendly smiles and insidious charm. Are you involved in all this? She confronted him, recalling the warnings from Susan. Each question carved a path through her emotions, the chaos swirling deeper still. Did you orchestrate this? He chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth, his eyes catching the dim light like a predator contemplating its prey. Orchestrate? No, but I know things. I have connections, secrets that you're too naive to understand. You think you're an ally, but to me, you're just a liability. Direct confrontation stole the breath from her lungs, forcing her to reconsider her position. This wasn't just a conversation, but a battle of wills. Gathering her strength, she looked him in the eyes, searching for a sign of the friend she once trusted. You can't just write me off like that. I won't let you manipulate me, Ted. He took a step back, surprise crossing his face, a flicker she seized upon. You've grown, haven't you? I didn't expect that. Maybe I've learned more than you think. I've survived chaos before, and I'll do it again. Each word dripped with determination. She could feel the shift in the air, a fragile foundation teetering dangerously. Then you'll need to make a choice, Ted retorted, his voice lowering. Are you willing to risk everything to discover the secrets behind this facade? Or will you walk away with your head buried in the sand? In that moment, a crucial decision loomed over her. Each path diverged sharply, a reckless pursuit of the truth that could lead to her undoing or retreating into the safety of ignorance. Fear pulsed through her, but alongside it, resolve began its steady climb. Show me, Hannah demanded, her heart racing, each word a step into the unknown. Show me everything. A smirk returned to Ted's lips, an unwelcome echo of the past that fueled her unease. Then let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes, shall we? But remember, once you enter, there's no turning back. As he gestured for her to follow, Hannah inhaled sharply. It felt like stepping off a ledge into the abyss. This was no longer about past grievances. Her survival depended on confronting the layers of deception woven tightly around her. And as she stepped forward, a gnawing question dug into her resolve. Would unraveling the secrets reveal her strength? Or would it shatter the fragile pieces of her being she had fought so hard to hold together? As the shadows closed in around her, Hannah's mind raced with warnings both familiar and foreign. Each step she took behind Ted felt like a leap into an unknown darkness, an oppressive weight pressing against her chest. Had she seriously underestimated him? Or had she been naive about her own capabilities all along? The path was strewn with remnants of her past, once innocent memories now becoming potential traps. Her finger grazed against the cold metal of a rusted machine, a fragment of the factory's history that echoed her own journey. Determination twisted through her veins, battling with the remnants of doubt. Who was she really becoming? Would this forced exploration be her undoing, or her awakening? Down here, Ted's voice broke through her thoughts, luring her deeper into the recesses of the factory. The fluorescent lights flickered hesitantly above, as if contesting the wisdom of their descent. Each glow threw sharp contrasts, illuminating the space between her past alliances and present uncertainties. What's down here? Hannah questioned, fighting to keep her voice steady. Vulnerability was a luxury she couldn't afford. You've always kept your secrets well hidden. Do you expect me to just trust you now? Ted stopped, turning to face her, a mix of irritation and admiration twitching on his features. Trust is earned, Hannah, not given. We're beyond that. You want the whole truth, or are you satisfied with your innocent shadow? He stepped closer, the tension amplified between them. Not just a confrontation of ideals, but also of identities. A shiver coursed through her at his proximity, igniting memories of longer, warmer embraces that now felt warped. I've done my part. I've faced danger before, but this feels different. You're not the person I once thought I knew. Neither are you, he shot back, an incisive edge sharpening his tone. You've been playing a dangerous game, one you've yet to understand fully. You're smarter than this. Your pursuit of truth has led you right into the heart of lies. His words wrapped around her like a snake, squeezing her hesitation. Ted had always known how to get under her skin, but this was more than just charm. It was a manipulation of her growth. If you think I'll back down, you're wrong. I've stepped away from ignorance. I'm here to seek out whatever twisted reality you've immersed yourself in. With a swift movement, he beckoned her down a narrow corridor. Let's see if you can handle what's waiting in the depths then. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, a drum urging her on. The more steps she took, the more she fortified her intentions. The truth unfathomed could either bind her or liberate her, but one was certain. It would reshape her. Digging deeper, her instincts began to flare. Would this journey unveil her hidden strength or push her to a limit she couldn't withstand? As they continued, the air thickened, polluted with the residue of secrets long held. The ground beneath her felt unstable, just like her relationship with Ted had become. Every unturned stone bore the weight of choices she had yet to face. And therein lay the monster of confrontation, not just against Ted, but against herself and her evolving identity. What do you really want from me? The truth or something far more insidious, she challenged, her voice steady, though the tremor of uncertainty lurked beneath. Ted paused, his expression impassive but his eyes glimmering with something darker. What I want, Hannah, is your willingness to see the ugly truths woven into the very fabric of this existence. Once we reach the end of this path, you may find the pieces of yourself you thought you had lost, and potentially some startling revelations about me as well. The risk felt staggering, a vast chasm beneath her feet. Would she truly rediscover herself through his revelations, or would she step into a nightmarish reality that shattered all she had rebuilt? The weight of her own agency bore down heavier than ever. Yes, Hannah said, finally summoning her resolve. I'm ready to face whatever lies in the dark. The corners of Ted's lips curled into a knowing smile. Then we're ready to play a very risky game. Buckle up, because the truth is often more astounding than fiction. As they rounded the final corner, Hannah braced herself for whatever revelations awaited. Would she emerge from this journey as a warrior or a casualty in a battle already won by shadows? A surge of adrenaline coursed through her, trembling on the brink of a new confrontation. The choice to confront the chaos or be consumed by it. The moment hung thick in the air, and her heart raced with the knowledge that destiny waited just beyond the door ahead. What awaited them could change everything, if they survived it. The narrow corridor twisted ahead, narrowing, darkened with dust and chaos. Each step Hannah took was a pulsating echo of the conflict within her. Any remnants of her past self felt like ghosts haunting her resolve, whispering doubts universally familiar to anyone caught between bravery and trepidation. She forced herself to focus. Are you ready? Ted asked, his voice now a low murmur, almost intimate in the sinister gloom enveloping them both. The question pierced through her hesitation like a blade. Ready to uncover the truth, she stated, though she was acutely aware that what she meant wasn't just the truth about Ted or the factory. This journey was rapidly expanding from a search for answers into an exploration of herself. The anger she suppressed, the fears she avoided, the potential weaknesses in her own character. The lights flickered above, casting shadows that danced along the walls like phantoms. As she stepped deeper into the factory's bowels, each flicker illuminated the remnants of machinery that once hummed with the lifeblood of productivity, now reduced to haunting relics. She could see her previous comfort with ignorance beginning to wane. Clarity awaited her on the other side of this darkened journey. Tell me one thing before we go further, Ted. Why now? Why reveal all these secrets now instead of before? The question hung in the air, as heavy as the layers of dust coating every surface. He turned, his gaze assessing. Because you've changed. You can handle what's next. There was a strange mix of pride and something more unsettling in his voice. Perhaps it was recognition of her willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. She inhaled sharply, feeling the weight of his statement. The idea that there was power hidden behind acceptance gripped her. Maybe all along she could have unraveled her own truth without having to rely on Ted. The thought of unwittingly placing trust in someone else to guide her awakened a lingering suspicion. They both wore masks, but his was becoming impossibly difficult to read. As they traversed the corridor, her senses sharpened. The sense of metal and rust mingled with the stale air, resonating with memories of past failures, bitter reminders of times when she'd let fear dictate her actions. She would not allow that to happen again. She chose to confront her own darkness, a necessary sacrifice for the illumination ahead. "Why should I believe you?" she pressed. "How do I know you're not just leading me into a trap? To grow, you must lean into a little risk." Ted paused, studying her. "But I get it. Trust is a luxury in a world full of dangers. Just know, every choice you make, even here, is a step towards who you're meant to be." His words reverberated within her, pushing her forward. She knew trust was a fragile bond at this moment, tethered tenuously to the larger reality swirling around them. Simultaneously a mentor and an adversary, Ted was emblematic of the larger struggle within her. She was learning to choose whether to follow the safety of old habits or embrace the uncertainty of her evolving self. As they reached a metal door, unmistakable with rust and streaks of grime, Ted turned to face her, his expression now serious. "This is it, Hannah. In order to discover the truth, you must confront what lies beyond this threshold. Remember, truth has a way of changing us, sometimes even more than we're prepared for." Steeling herself, she nodded, her heart racing. What awaited them could alter everything they understood about one another. Each moment felt suspended, tension thick as they locked eyes for just an instant, each weighing the other's readiness for the unknown. Then, with a deep breath, she grasped the cold metal handle of the door, her fingers trembling slightly. Would she unearth the truth that she sought or stumble into a lie that dismantled her hard-fought growth? With every ounce of courage, Hannah turned the handle. The weight of the decision pressed down as the door began to creak open, revealing darkness that promised revelations. But there was one lingering question echoing in her mind. Could she truly handle the truths waiting for her on the other side, or would this plunge into darkness illuminate facets of herself she wasn't ready to face? As the door swung wide, the shadows beyond welcomed her, and she stepped forward, uncertain yet determined, knowing that whatever lay ahead was not just about unraveling Ted's secrets, but also about defining who she would become, not just for herself, but against all odds. The darkness enveloped her instantly, like a thick fog that turned every sound into an ominous whisper. Hannah blinked, adjusting her eyes to the dimness as she stepped into the room. Shadows lurked in every corner, the remnants of machinery looming like giants frozen in time. The air hung heavy, thick with a sense of history and a lingering despair she could almost feel vibrating beneath her skin. The door behind her creaked ominously as it swung shut, isolating her and Ted from the outside world. Her stomach churned with a mix of anticipation and dread, a storm of emotions clashing as she took in her surroundings. The walls were stained with years of neglect, and the smell of oil and decay mingled unsettlingly in the air. Yet there was something oddly invigorating about this place. It was a crucible for transformation. "Do you see it?" Ted's voice broke the stillness. He gestured toward the far wall where crumbling posters clung precariously. They advertised a time when this factory thrived, promises of prosperity painted in bright hues now faded to melancholy hues. "This place holds answers, Hannah. Everything is connected, including the truths about us." Hannah moved further into the space, drawn to a rusted machine that had undoubtedly once played a significant role in the factory's operations. She ran her fingers across the cold metal, and memories of her own failures began to surface, moments where she had chosen safety over risk, silence over truth. Could she ever forgive those choices? Would uncoupling herself from that past finally grant her the growth she so desperately sought? "It's not just about this factory. It's about you." Ted insisted, stepping closer. You need to confront the decisions that brought you here. Not just about me or this place, but your own choices. A sudden wave of clarity washed over her. In order to move forward, she must wrestle with her past. What do you mean by that? She demanded, frustration lacing her tone. Are you suggesting I'm somehow to blame for this slippery path? I'm suggesting you take ownership. If any of this makes you uncomfortable, it's time to confront that discomfort. Ted's gaze held a fierce determination, one that ignited a spark in her. Hannah ached to embrace growth, but every heartbeat echoed the fear of allowing herself to be raw and exposed. She could trace the lineage of her conflicts to a pivotal moment, when she let others' expectations sculpt her identity rather than forging her own path. The revelation prickled her skin, igniting both resentment and a fierce desire for change. Glimmers of understanding flickered within her as she absorbed her surroundings, notes of clarity crashing together in a dissonant symphony. Fastened to the wall, amidst the dust and grime, hung photographs, smiling faces, promises of celebration long forgotten. She realized each one told stories of triumph, yet crafted from the shadows of failures too. Drawing closer to one vivid snapshot, her chest tightened involuntarily. There she was, a younger version of herself, surrounded by the very people she had attempted to please, each pair of eyes reflecting expectations that had pulled her down a narrow path. Regret pooled like a stone in her stomach, reminding her that every choice she made was an opportunity lost. Let them go, Ted said softly, as if reading her thoughts. They do not define your future. It's your time to reclaim your narrative. Hesitation coursed through her veins, but the flicker of defiance sparked a mentor's insight within. Perhaps it was time to step fully into her own story, leaving behind the weighted remnants of a past that no longer served her. Each photo she released signified a choice: to embrace uncertainty over fear, to acknowledge her right to write a new chapter. What could that look like? She breathed, half expecting him to dismiss her thoughts. It looks like courage. It looks like taking control. Ted's conviction brightened the shadows, igniting a fire within her chest. Ready to confront what you must? As he extended his hand toward her amid the engulfing darkness, her heart raced with exhilaration and dread. Now or never. Was she ready to brave whatever lay ahead, armed with newfound purpose? Swallowing hard, she reached for him, defiance mingling with hope. This was the moment, a catalyst for everything to come. The potential for revelation loomed, but more importantly, a chance to forge her identity anew. Beyond the darkness awaited the truth. What she didn't know was that the unraveling of her past might lead her not just toward self-discovery, but to choices laden with unforeseen consequences, ones she might not be ready to face. Would the weight of those truths empower or consume her? With her decision made, Hannah stepped through the shadows, diving into the uncertainty with Ted at her side, her heart pounding in time with the promise of transformation, knowing she was on the brink of something irrevocable. What awaited her might demand more than she ever anticipated. As Hannah stepped forward, the darkness behind her receded and a new awareness enveloped her, one that surged with the untapped power of decision-making. She let Ted's hand guide her deeper into the room, each step a silent battle against the ghosts that whispered from the walls. The unease that had coiled in her stomach started to unravel. This wasn't merely about confronting her past. It was an invitation to sculpt her future. What if my past clings too tightly? She murmured, anxiety edging back into her consciousness. Then you fight it, Ted replied, his voice steady, reverberating with strength. You are not alone in this. With a calmness she had seldom felt, Hannah collected her thoughts and steadied herself. Could she find the courage to face the remnants of her past? The need for introspection gnawed at her, urging her to sift through the debris of her life. She would pull those old memories into the light, dissect them, and perhaps extinguish their power over her. Where do we start? Her voice was barely a whisper, almost lost in the heavy silence, but there was a resonance of determination unmistakable in her tone. Look at the machine. Think about what it represents, Ted said, gesturing toward the rusted contraption. It's a broken promise, much like choices we've made. What did it do? What did it become? Hannah walked closer, tracing the intricate metal patterns with trembling fingers. Here was a metaphor, a mechanized reflection of her life. It had failed, fallen into disrepair, much like the relationship she had nurtured but which had ultimately caused her pain. Every piece tells a story, she said thoughtfully. Each choice, each fear. They built a narrative I'm now ready to rewrite. This revelation felt liberating, yet its weight pressed down upon her. The idea of change was alluring, yet confronting the past was daunting. She needed to admit to herself what she had feared, her own complicity in the patterns that had led her here. By avoiding conflict, was she not actively choosing stagnation? Confronting my fears means facing those overwhelming expectations I've carried, she continued, her voice firmer now. I sought validation through others instead of trusting my instincts. This machine, it's a relic of the comfort zone I clung to. Ted's smile widened as he saw her eyes aflame with realization. Exactly, Hannah. You were shaped by that pressure, but you can reshape your reality. Embrace the discomfort. Transform it. Was the uncomfortable truth of her choices not just a burden, but a potential catalyst? The thought ignited a smoldering belief within her, a belief that she could distill the essence of her failures into something productive. What if I fail again? She asked, vulnerability stirring within her as despair threatened to seep in. Failure is just a step on the path to success, Ted reassured her. You're equipped with the knowledge of what didn't work. Bring that to the forefront. Own it. As Ted spoke, Hannah sensed something awakening within her, a sense of agency. Finally, she could adapt the lessons learned from her scars rather than let them define her. She clenched her fists, breathing in the dusty air filled with a history of abandonment. Okay, I'll confront not only what they expected of me but also who I want to be. It's time to strip away the layers. Then let's do it. Present your fears aloud, expose those hidden truths, Ted urged, encouraging her to take the plunge. In this dilapidated sanctuary, the ruins of what was stood as testament to the transformation within her. Each choice was a building block, each fear an invitation. The shadows danced, but they did not frighten her any longer. I will start by reclaiming the narrative, she declared, fierceness edging her voice. And whatever I discover next, I will transform it into fuel for my future, not chains binding me to my past. That's the spirit. Ted's approval radiated, lending her strength. But as they prepared to delve deeper into her personal revelations, an unexpected noise echoed through the factory, a low rumble followed by a series of loud thuds. The unsettling reality outside intruded, reminding her that confronting the past would not be without consequences. Fear stirred anew, amplifying the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Stay alert, Ted warned, tension flashing in his eyes as the echoes became more pronounced. Hannah swallowed hard, the wavering anticipation clawing at her resolve. The past's shadows may tremble, but now they were not alone. What awaited them beyond the factory's confines loomed as another challenge, one that would demand not only her courage but also her awareness of the potential threats that surrounded them. Could this newfound path of self-discovery withstand the unexpected turbulence of the outside world? Would her journey into understanding herself lead her to confront not only her history, but the emerging obstacles ahead? Hannah stood in the depths of the factory, her pulse racing as the echoes of the outside world resonated ominously. The revelation that her past failures could mold her future ignited a fire within her. But now she had to address not just her inner turmoil but also the potential danger lurking beyond the walls of her newfound understanding. Stay focused, Ted whispered urgently, the weight of their current moment pressing down around them. Whatever is happening out there could affect us. There was a syncopated rhythm to her heartbeat, matching the uncertainty shrouding their unfolding truth. Each step she took now was driven by the knowledge that her journey was more than just about confronting the past. It was also about positioning herself against the chaos that threatened her future. As she surveyed the decaying machinery around her, the memories of what they represented weighed heavily on her, each intricate part a reflection of her choices. Amidst that noise, She could hear the remnants of the past calling out, urging her to confront her deepest fears. What does it mean for you to reclaim your narrative? Ted's encouragement was insistent, cutting through the external chaos. I know that confronting my fears isn't just about standing up to you or anyone else. It's about knowing my worth, my strengths, and my limits. Each word resonated with a newfound clarity. I've been so focused on appeasing others that I forgot about my own needs and desires. You've already made great strides, Hannah. His approval felt like a lifeline, grounding her amidst the turbulence. As the thudding grew louder, a sense of urgency sparked something primal within her. This is it, she asserted, steeling her resolve. I will not let fear dictate my future. I am ready to embrace who I am meant to be, even if it means confronting pain. Then let's face it together, Ted urged, but the tremors of vibration beneath their feet intensified. You're right, she agreed, her conviction simmering into a boiling point. It's time to confront everything that has been hidden, even if it reveals the twisted connections behind it. She took several steps toward the looming door to her past, her hand steady on the handle, prepared to usher in the revelations waiting on the other side. The raucous echoes heralding danger faded to the background, leaving only the quiet intensity of her determination. But before she could push the door open, a loud crash echoed, rattling the very foundations they stood upon. Moments later, the door burst open, revealing figures wreathed in shadows, faces obscured. Hannah's instincts surged. Had her past already come to confront her? But even more so, she'd expected this crack of destiny and was ready to meet it. Who are you? She demanded, her voice cutting through her apprehension as her gaze locked onto the leader emerging from the dark. I'm here for you, Hannah, the figure said, a familiar edge to their tone that sent a jolt of recognition through her. Stop, don't take a step closer. The determination in her voice rang clear as she pressed against Ted, her presence fortified by their shared strength. What are you doing here? She questioned, the remnants of her past colliding with the unfamiliar face daring to claim her narrative. Your push for truth was felt. You've stirred something, you've delved past the shadows and revealed the monster. The figure replied, tension palpable in the air. But now you must decide. Will you continue this path, or will you back down? In that moment, Hannah felt the confluence of her past and future converge, and the full weight of her agency rushed into her being. This was the crucible she had long awaited, the true defining moment that would lay bare the narrative woven around her life. Let me clarify, her voice rang with the certainty of her evolution. I will not cower in the face of conflict, nor will I let you dictate my choices. Your courage is commendable, but be careful. Awakening the past often brings forgotten threats, the figure warned. Threats I will face on my own terms, she declared, her posture shifting, unveiling the warrior that had been hidden under layers of fear and doubt. My past shaped me, but it does not control me. With a nod from Ted, they stepped closer, forming a barrier of strength against the encroaching memories. The tension in the room thickened at her declaration, revealing cracks of vulnerability and strength, daring to raise the stakes of her fate. Very well, the shadowy figure declared, a twisted smile forming. Let's see if you can withstand the truth, then. Hannah stood resolute as the confrontation unfolded before her, each decision echoing the truth of her journey. She had already begun to reclaim her identity. Now it was her resolve that would define her legacy. As the darkness threatened to swallow them, she found a measure of strength she hadn't anticipated. A solid confidence in her autonomy, a fierce recognition of her competence. You have no power over my choices, she asserted. And for the first time, she felt the fear of being trapped begin to dissipate. As the scene unfolded in vivid clarity, Hannah realized that the enlightenment she sought ignited a distinct transformation. She had conquered the darkness within and without. The guiding principles of her profession, the resilience forged through tumult, stood as allies at her side. And in that factory, with the noise of impending conflict illuminating her purpose, she stepped boldly into the unknown, ready to embrace the entirety of her identity, to prove that she would emerge victorious from the shadows. With one last breath, she opened herself to the possibilities awaiting her in the chaos, resolved to etch a new narrative built on the truth of her reclaimed self. This was her defining moment, and there would be no turning back. If you believe in the power of transformation, it's time to support this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.